Hey, friends. I don't know why my voice just did that there. Boy, that's because I was at the Kenny Chesney show last night singing.
It was a Tim impression.
Yeah, that's what. Yes. I love Tim. My name is Josh. He's Rock. We're in for Balloon Party today. Glad you guys are with us. Hello. Father's Day weekend. Big weekend for dudes. Particularly dudes who have daughters, because if you have a son, you literally don't matter. But if you have a daughter, you get your own hats and T-shirts and hashtags.
In fairness, if you have a son, he will forget to get you a present. If you have a daughter, she will remember.
Yeah, if your daughter wants something. That's how it works. Kids remember to get their parents gifts when they want something in return. That's how these things work. But, you know, you never see, is there a hashtag that says hashtag boy dad? This is my question. Do you have, that doesn't exist. You know, I'll tell you, it doesn't exist because somehow, like, if you're a dad that has sons, you've, like, hit the lottery, and that's enough. You don't get credit for being a dad there. It's like, if you have a daughter, like, are you just expected to be a deadbeat dad, so it's shocking when you're not? Like, is that the expectation? Is the expectation that if you're a dad or you're a man that has a daughter, you're just supposed to be horrible, but when you're not, you get a hashtag and a hat that says girl dad.
It's actually a pretty happy little search. If you search hashtag boy dad on the X, you actually get a nice little run of threads on this one. Look at this, the positivity. How about that?
Well, look, I'm fine with that, but let's be real. No one cares about boy dads. It's all about girl dads. Girl dads run the place. They have hats, they have T-shirts, they have hashtags, they have window decals. You know what I see around town? Joy FM stickers, weirdo stickers, and hashtag girl dad stickers. That's all I see around St. Louis.
I well disagree, but one of the hosts here has a girl dad hat.
Oh, I know. Look, I know. And I'm not judging. This is not just about him. I've seen his girl dad hat. I've thought this well before I saw Alex's girl dad hat. That's not, I do not want anyone to say that, like, oh, Josh is just ripping on Alex. No, usually I just rip on BK. That's real. Alex, I don't rip on him. And I certainly am not here to rip on his girl dad hat. I am here to rip on the overall concept of girl dad being a superior dad to boy dad. Or even, look, take this how you want it. I'm a dog dad. I don't have kids. I have a dog. But it's important to note this. If I wouldn't have adopted that dog, he'd have been thrown in an oven. I literally made a choice to save a life. Many of you people who are parents just made a choice to not wrap it up. And you want me to, good for you. You did it. You were irresponsible. Hashtag girl dad. Me, there was a life that was at risk. My dog, when I adopted him 12 years ago, was in a kill shelter. Like, he was like on the conveyor belt ready to go. You are channeling like a Carlin set right now, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I saved something's life. You created life, and then you want credit for maintaining that life. You made a choice to do that. I went out and I said, this dog could die. This creature, this living being could die. And I saved him. And by the way, don't believe them when they tell you that you adopted a dog. You bought a dog. Like, they don't adopt, don't shop. You shopped. It cost me $300 to adopt a dog with the papers and the shots in it. So anytime someone tells you to adopt a dog, you bought the dog. It just happened to be not in like a puppy mill or in the pet store in the mall.
314 says, my kids don't even say happy Father's Day. My birthday's also on a leap day, and I don't even get a happy birthday.
Oh, now I feel bad for Dad. Hashtag abandoned dad. Hashtag his kids hate him dad.
But here's the thing, though. Again, you got to use that. You got to use that. Weaponize that. It sounds like you can get out at 6 o'clock for a golf round and not be seen until noon, and everyone's just like, oh, you're back today.
And by the way, if a dad another thing about dads, if dads end up bitching about someone forgetting their birthday or Father's Day, you know what people say to them? Oh, shut up, Dad. Oh, but God forbid we forget Mom's birthday. It's possible maybe Mom's an a-hole. Like, we have this idea that it's only dads who can be a-holes. There are people who have a-hole moms too. It's very possible. But like, there's this stereotype.
No one wants to stay here and say it. There's some moms suck.
Some moms suck. SMS. Some moms suck. Horrible. And that's okay. there's this world where we can't say that it's possible that women could suck at things. Like, I am woman, hear me roar. And look, I'm not telling you that all men are great at things, and I'm not telling you that all women suck at things. What I'm telling you is we live in a society where you watch sitcoms. You know what the sitcoms are? They're big dumb oaf with the hot wife, and he's stupid. She calls him stupid.
Why is he never
women
attracted to her? Why is the big dumb oaf never attracted to the hot wife? Can somebody explain to me that part of the sitcom?
You
I
want
don't
to tell
get
me
it.
that Fred Flintstone doesn't like
I don't get it.
banging Wilma? You want to tell me that? That guy is lucky to have Wilma. He's lucky there are only 8 people in Bedrock. But that's neither here nor there. Women can be idiots too, is all I'm trying to convey on this Father's Day. That's a message I'd like to convey to you.
618 says, Josh, you don't know how pleased it makes me to hear that you have not procreated.
Look, me too. See, that's the thing. Like, I get people and they'll go, like my buddies will have kids. Like, one of my best friends from high school has a kid like every 2 years. And he's got like 3 or 4 kids now. And he'll get into the group chat, and then my old basketball coach will be like, Josh, you're up. I'm like, no, I'm not. I have a dog. He's 12 years old, and that's where all my money goes, to that and gambling. So,
At least you're being honest.
Yeah, like literally, my bank account last week until I got paid today had $0 in it. I am a dysfunctional human. I should, honest to God, I should get hashtag responsible non-dad. Because, responsible rapper-upper. Because, me not having kids is actually a great decision. But people, that's funny, people judge you because you don't want to have kids. But then what would happen if I were broken and gambling debt and I had a kid? They'd be like, oh, you're a terrible dad. Well, then why did you want me to have the kid? You know I shouldn't. I'm brilliant. Obviously, I make good decisions in life about children. I adopted a dog. I don't need to have kids. That's all.
My dad's birthday fell on Mother's Day every couple of years, and he never gets a birthday present.
See, dads get screwed, man. Dads get hosed.
That's not shocking.
Oh, unless they have a daughter, then everything's fine. They get their own hashtag then. We stroke them and say, hey, congrats. You just decided to have sex with your lady and you did nothing to control whether or not you had a girl or a boy, but then we give you credit for the sex of the child you had.
I like how this is a text that we actually got that is in context to what we're saying. Any other time it would just be a really weird text. It does cost money to adopt kids too.
Oh, it does. You would think, I was just talking with Mike about that, it costs way too much to adopt a damn kid and a dog. You sit like Sally Struthers is on the TV telling you got to adopt some kid from Ethiopia, and you're like, okay, I'll do it. And they're like, well, I need thousands of dollars. Well, I don't have thousands of dollars. So the option is you give me the kid, or he can live in Ethiopia and wear the T-shirts of the team that lost the championship, and fine.
New Mavericks / Oilers gear dropping in a couple months.
There's what?
There's new Mavericks / Oilers gear dropping for a couple months for those kids.
Oh, that's true. Good point. Well played, sir. I didn't catch that at first, but yes. Yeah, I'm slow. Hashtag slow non-kid dad today. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway.
The same thing. I would appreciate if my friends who do not have kids yet, stop every time you post about your vacation. Stop mentioning that, I'm so happy we don't have kids so we can take this vacation. Both sides of the spectrum just need to quit it.
Well, you know who's irresponsible are the friends that have kids and you don't. So they try to force the idea of having kids upon you because they're miserable and they want you to be miserable too. You're like, no, I enjoy my life. I have no real responsibility.
They need friends and they want you to see the joy of being a parent.
They're horrible friends. They are horrible, horrible friends. I had a buddy of mine. I got into a fight with a friend of mine's friend. So his buddy, who had just knocked up his lady, so they're having a kid, he's trying to convince my buddy and his wife, who don't have kids, to have kids. And I jumped in and I'm like, you people are irresponsible. There's no reason for you to have kids. Absolutely no reason. And then this buddy gets in and says, just because Josh is a miserable human doesn't mean that you guys shouldn't have kids. Kids are great. I'm like, listen, bitch, here's what you're doing, bud. You're going out here and you're going, oh my God, you got to have kids because you have kids and you don't want to be left out. Because you know that when you have kids, you can't go to the bars with us anymore, so you want them to be miserable too.
We're getting away just about every possible weird, birthdays falling on Father's Day. How about this one? DJ Patty Cakes. Well, my daughter's birthday falls on Father's Day, so I'm just kind of screwed. You put on the girl dad hat for Father's Day, and you go, oh, Guess I know what we're doing today.
But you know what's the worst is when your birthday falls around Christmas.
I always have felt sorry for those kids.
My wife's birthday is on the 19th of December, so she's basically like Christmas's birthday for her.
Essentially,
Your parents are a-holes for that.
Two things happen there. Either your parents were well off and you got 2 Christmases, or your parents weren't well off and you got one big thing.
Yes.
That's essentially how that. There's no middle. It's one of those two things.
It's not fair.
It's never fair.
It's not fair. Like, it should be a law that if you have a kid, that kid should have to be born within, like, at least 3 months prior to Christmas. Like, if your kid's not born by August, then you can't have kids until the next August. So basically, you procreate. There should be designated procreation time, copulation time, and that would be at, like, January. And then you spit out a kid in September, and then there's still room for birthday and Christmas.
That's smart too.
Yeah.
Or you again, you don't care about your kids and it's all about you. So you make sure you have that kid around May or June so that they're always the oldest kid in their class, therefore making them smarter and better at sports than the other kids.
You're brilliant too.
Got to play that game. And I know that because I was always the youngest in my class and it did not go well for me.
I was always just very tall and fat. Dude, I met a 13. Okay, really quick, and then I've got sports stuff, I swear, before John Kiowski comes in here and bangs on the door. But I was at a remote last week in Festus, and this kid walks up. His name was Colton. He said he wanted to be a disc jockey. I said, I don't know why, but okay. So he comes up and says, I want to be a disc jockey. I said, what's your favorite band? He says, Motley Crue, and my favorite song is Dr. Feelgood. So, like, I got in there, and I'd let him do the whole thing, and it was cute. And I asked, how old you are? He goes, I'm 13. Kid was like this tall. When I was 13, you know what I looked like? This. A giant ogre man, like 6'2", 280. Like, it's weird to me to look at a 13-year-old kid. I was like, no, for real, how old are you? Like, LOL, yeah, and I'm 80. So how old are you, kid? No, the kid was 13. I could have put him in my pocket. Kids they're smaller. I don't know what to tell you. Or maybe I was just a giant ogre boy.
I think you might have been an ogre boy.
I think I was a giant ogre boy.
It happens.
Anyway, all right, I'll do some sports stuff here in a second. Let's get this. Let's go as close to on time as we can here. This is good. How about this? All right, I got sports stuff to get into, deep sports stuff. It's coming up. It's Josh and Rock. We're in for Balloon Party on 101 ESPN. So, I guess we can talk about the fact that Cardinals fans, and look, I am one of you. I want to be very clear. When I say Cardinals fans, I speak of we, except I'm not part of a we that gives standing ovations to a guy who's not throwing a no-hitter and just struck out a couple of Cardinals and give him a standing ovation. Now, I know I'm a couple days behind on this, but there's a bunch of stuff. Like, hey, the lineup's out, by the way, if you guys are interested in such things. We got Wynn, Burleson, Goldie, Arenado, Gorman, Herrera, Carlson, Donovan, and Pajes. So there's your lineup for this afternoon's game against the Cubs. I have a hard time getting excited about the Cardinals. Like, they don't do anything for me. They're boring. Like, you win 11 of 14, you lose 6 of 8. Like, I'm not interested. Like, I have a hard time really getting into them overall. And this is someone, I've been a diehard my whole life, but I watch them now, and it's like there's stretches where I really want them to lose, and there's stretches where then, like, I'm back in for a second. Like, okay, we're good. But deep down, I think we all know that the Cardinals aren't good. But we also know that the NL is so bad that they're kind of alive. And that's the part that sucks. And I think in reality, we have to look at who we are and not who everyone else is. If you're like a 5 and you're around a bunch of other 5s, are you really attractive, or are you just the best looking of a bunch of mid-level looking people? And that's essentially what the Cardinals are. The Cardinals are, and really, I wouldn't even call them the best looking of those either, but they're just kind of in there. Like, I went to the game last Saturday, right? And place is like half full. They tell you there's 35,000 people. There's not 35,000 people. There's no juice. The bleachers are pretty much wide open. Upper deck sections, you could shoot a cannon into them. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. It's like a chore. Watching them is almost like a job, watching the Cardinals. And then I'll ignore them for a while, and then they'll win 5 of 6, and I'll go, okay, I'm kind of back in a little bit, and then I'll turn them off when they lose 4 of 7, and it's not an enjoyable time. It's not fun. They don't play particularly good baseball. They now stink defensively. Their pitching is okay, and the offense blows. There's nothing good about it. But I was reading a story from Bernie from a couple days ago, and Bernie has 10 reasons why the St. Louis Cardinals have dropped in home attendance. Well, I think the obvious answer is 2 things. Without even reading his to you, here would be the 2 answers I would have for you. The brand of baseball sucks, and it's really sucked for the last 5 or 6 years. Nobody likes the manager, and nobody likes the general manager, or the Pobo, as it were. Nobody likes those guys, and they're one and the same. Like, I don't know that Ali Marmol is a bad manager, because I don't really know what makes a bad manager, because by and large, managers are worthless. There's no, like, Whitey Herzog out there that has a system. It's Whitey ball, and we're going to play for speed, and we're on AstroTurf, and we're bunting for hits. Most of these guys just listen to the GM, and they look at the advanced analytics, and they determine their lineups, and that's that. Like Kevin Cash, who's a putz over in Tampa. Like, the dopes like that. That's baseball managers. Baseball managers, by and large, mean very little to the overall big picture. I don't believe managers matter. So is Oliver Marmol a bad manager? I don't know. Like, what makes a good manager? What makes a bad manager? You're a good manager if your team wins. You're a bad manager if you lose. Managers mean very little. But Marmol is associated with Mozeliak, and 99 out of 100 people in St. Louis hate Mozeliak. And until the Cardinals rid the organization of those 2 guys, and that would be a fine start, you're going to have this same kind of mid-level disinterest, ho-hum, half-empty ballpark, people making excuses to not go, giving the other team standing ovations. Tickets. Dude, I sat in the home Redbird Club on Saturday, section 250. I was literally sitting right below the KMOX booth, the Mike Shannon broadcast booth. Those tickets cost me $15 a piece. And those are the best seats in the house for my book. People don't care. and they've lost interest. I talk with BK about this all the time, and I don't disagree with him when he says that the Cardinals aren't far off from being good. I don't disagree with that. I think there's possibility out there that with, like, I like Gorman. I like Mason Wynn. How could you not? Alec Burleson's a good baseball player right now. If Jordan Walker ever figures it out, hey there. You can go out and sign some pitchers and sign some bats and be good pretty quick. I don't believe that you have to tear it all the way down. But what I do believe, for people to grow interest in this team again, is you have to rid yourself of the Pobo and the manager. You know, I was watching Baseball Like It Ought to Be the other day, which is the 1996 St. Louis Cardinals highlight video. My algorithm on YouTube shows me meat videos and old Cardinals highlight tapes. So I'm like, Baseball Like It Ought to Be. I haven't watched this in forever. And one of the first things that's talked about in Baseball Like It Ought to Be is that after the 95 season, the Cardinals said we need to change. Now, obviously, ownership change there. That's not going to happen here. But you brought in a winning manager who had an idea and an idea of what he wanted to do, had a big name and had won before, and it kind of changed the outlook of the franchise big picture, right? That's what happened. That's what we need right now. Like, you can say that there's a new manager. That ain't going to fix anything. You can bring in Joe Madden, and that ain't going to fix anything. We as fans need to know that what you are doing as an organization is moving forward and changing things because we are sick of what it is. And we can lie to ourselves, and we can watch these games and go, okay, we're kind of in this, and because everybody else stinks, even though we're under 500, we're still kind of in it. And you never know. When you get into the playoffs, anything's possible. But that doesn't mean we're doing the right thing. That means that we as a team are just the tallest little dude and they're the best looking ugly dude. That's who we are right now. And until there is a change of that sort of a shift in such a seismic way, I'm not going to be interested. I'll watch and I'll flip it back and forth and I'll check in on the score. And if they win 11-14, I'll go, uh-oh, maybe so. But I'm not truly invested in the team. I'm not interested in them. The team is boring. It's seemingly lifeless. I'm sick of watching Paul Goldschmidt play baseball. I'm sick of Nolan Arenado. And every time he strikes out, does this little move where he shakes his arm and walks off. Like, bro, you're a hard-on. I hate watching you play baseball. Like, you're supposed to be an all-time great player, and you need some doofs to come in there and be leaders of the team because you're not a leader. Goldschmidt's washed. I'm sick of watching it. That's the problem I have. So, like, I understand that if you're a fan and you're into it and you're like, you know what, hey, might as well try to win because what other choice do we have? And I don't necessarily disagree with that. But I have a hard time getting excited about what the Cardinals are doing. So then I read some of these Bernie reasons why the team has dropped in home attendance. Mozeliak fatigue is one of them I agree with. Boring baseball and players with no charisma. I agree with that from Bernie. Here's one, though, that I disagree with. The wasting of the Goldschmidt and Arenado years. Well, you know how these years wouldn't be wasted? If those two didn't suck. Like, we sit there and talk about Arenado and Goldschmidt like these are two dudes that are like, man, they're playing their asses off and they're both batting .320 and they're going to, like, they're 40 and 40. Like, we're looking at MV3. You know, like, that's what we're talking about here. People talk about Goldschmidt and Arenado like all the other players around them are bums, and they're not. They're bums. They suck. That's the problem. So I disagree with Bernie on that. The idea that, well, we've just wasted Goldschmidt and Arenado. Well, you went to the playoffs a couple of years ago with them. It just so happens that both of them decided to fall off a cliff as baseball players at the exact same time. And there's also certain things that I think need to be acknowledged. I don't necessarily think that Goldschmidt's a losing baseball player. I just think Goldie is what he is. He was a very good player for a while. He's not a good player now. I think Arenado is a losing baseball player. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. Rock, when you watch Nolan Arenado play baseball, he gives me the vibe of someone who is a losing baseball player. His vibe is, I struck out, and here's my little flip up here. And, like, you're a hard-on, bro. I'm tired of watching you play baseball. Trade him, and maybe he'll go bat 400 for another team. Probably will happen. I'm just sick of him. I'm sick of Goldschmidt. I'm sick of Mozeliak. And I'm sick of stick-up-his-ass Ollie. I just want something different. That's all. How do you feel, Rock? The floor is yours now, buddy. Go ahead.
He seems like a guy I wouldn't enjoy playing with. He would always be, and not even like the fun way where you're like, God, that guy's a jack. I don't want to deal with him every day because he's the Tommy fan. Like I don't want to deal with that guy. It's not even that. It's just like I just feel like he'd be kind of grating to play with because, like you said, every moment that he makes a mistake, something went wrong. When you're not stepping up, it's because you're probably not good enough. He probably isn't the most enjoyable person to play with right now, especially this season. I think the answer to that is probably different if you ask somebody 2 years ago who's playing with him because everything's going great. He's on the Gold Glove run. He's hitting the ball like crazy still. But he does seem like somebody who all he cares about is baseball. And so when baseball's not going well for him, I can't imagine he's a very pleasant person.
I don't know, he just comes across as a hard-on to me. For whatever reason. It's like, and that kind of goes to the part about guys not having charisma that Bernie brings up in this story. Like Goldschmidt seems like a nice guy, but when you watch him, are you like, God, that's a guy like a Bryce Harper who you can kind of rally behind and kind of, even though, and by the way, Harper's a hard-on, but Harper is a pandering hard-on that's like, oh, I got my Philly fanatic hat on. And like these guys are they're just blah.
I don't see, part of it is that guys like Arenado and Goldschmidt, like when you've been conditioned to be a machine since you were like 8 years old. Wake up at 6:30. Go to the batting cages. No soda. No fun. Eat the banana. Go back to the batting cages. Get good grades. Go back to the batting. Like it's like these guys have been roboticized since they were like 7 years old, and so I can't even blame them for being sticks in the mud because you get broken down at that point.
But you can be a stick in the mud if you're good at it.
It's true.
Now you're just a stick in the mud and you're not good at it, and you're the kind of the face of why the team stinks. And then you get guys like Bernie's awesome. But when you start reading stuff like, well, they've wasted the Goldschmidt and Arenado years. No, those two are wasting the Goldschmidt and Arenado years. By the way, 2 years ago when they played the Phillies, neither one of those guys showed up in that 2-game series. I mean, yeah, the ninth inning was a disaster in game one. Obviously, that sucked. But overall, the starting pitching wasn't all that bad in those 2 games. You know who didn't show up? Goldschmidt, Arenado. We have to stop babying and pampering and feeling sorry for these guys because they used to be stars. They're not stars anymore, and they suck. And really, if you gave me a choice, you said, Josh, Arenado and Goldschmidt could disappear, and you could watch 9 of these younger dudes just play for a while and see what they can do, move some dudes around, I'd rather watch that because it can't be any worse than this purgatory we're in watching this current crappy baseball team.
St. Louis fans are very fast to turn on an aging superstar who is no longer producing. They are really quick to do it. The big difference, though, is that the expectation is that Arenado and Goldschmidt aren't at that age yet, and so everyone's just waiting for them to finally flip the switch and turn it around because it's like, well, you guys shouldn't be completely falling off. If Arenado is 3 years older, everyone would be 100% against him because it would be, well, he's 36, his contract's over, already almost done. He's done. He's washed. Why are you wasting time giving him at bats? Stop playing the contract. Play a young player who deserves it. That would 100% be the narrative. But because he's only like 33, the thought process is, well, he's still got it. We saw what he's been for the last 10 years. He still has to be able to turn it around. But the problem is that not every player gets to play till they're 36. Just because more players do it now, some guys fall off at 33. That's still something that just happens.
You know what's wild, though? So I still have a lot of friends in Houston and media people in Houston, and I saw a guy tweet today a video, the highlight of Goldschmidt hitting the home run. And he goes, bring him home, because he's from the Woodlands, which is, outside of Houston, about 40 minutes outside of Houston. And I message him and I go, you do realize that Goldschmidt sucks, right? Like, well, we got Jose Abreu. Well, homeboy here ain't that much better than Jose Abreu. Like, the only benefit of trading for someone like Goldschmidt is you don't have to pay him next year. And maybe you get the opportunity to get a guy who's driven for half a year. And let's not forget this. For as bad as Goldschmidt looks right now, people forget about this, but I don't, because I was on the crusade to get Justin Verlander to Houston back in 2017. Verlander's ERA was like 5.5 in the first half of the year for the Tigers that year. And I said, it doesn't matter. He's not washed. He can still play. Just make him a deal. They made the deal for him at the end of August, and they end up winning the World Series. And since then, Verlander's won another Cy Young, and he's been awesome. So maybe at the end of the road here, Goldschmidt goes somewhere else and blast, like Will the Thrill did back in 2000. Not apples to apples, of course, because Clark, I think, was like 38, 39, or somewhere around there. But whenever McGuire was out in 2000, They trade for Will Clark at the deadline. He comes over from Baltimore, where he hadn't been playing particularly well, and then bats like 300 plus the rest of the season and bops a bunch of home runs. And I was there for Game 2 against the Braves in the division series that year, sitting in Homer's Landing in right field whenever he came up in the second inning, I think it was the second inning, and blasted one with that sweet, sexy left-handed stance of his. So maybe that's Goldschmidt. Maybe Goldschmidt does that and goes somewhere else. But I'd be willing to take that chance at this point because he's not good. And I was trying to tell that to this guy. I'm like, you realize Goldschmidt, you have the one highlight. Congrats, you showed one of his home runs. He's mostly a singles hitter. That's who he is right now. Like, oh, he's on a hitting streak and he's hitting blank out of blank games. Yes, how many of those are singles? The number 3 hitter in the lineup isn't there to hit singles. He's there to hit for extra bases. Anyway, all right, we'll get into more stuff. It's Josh and Rock. We're in for Balloon Party. It's 101 ESPN.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals take their series against the Pirates thanks to a 4-3 win. Yesterday, it was Brendan Donovan who gave him the win, his 5th home run of the season to take the lead in the 6th inning. Cardinals start a 3-game series against the Chicago Cubs later today. 1:20 first pitch lineup is out. It'll be Kyle Gibson facing off against the lefty for the Cubs, Jordan Wicks. Wicks on the season 1-2 with a 4.64 ERA. And here on 101 ESPN tonight, it's the NBA Finals game for a potential chance for Jason Tatum and the Celtics to sweep out the Dallas Mavericks. You can catch it right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame starts at 6:30. That is your Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Any text messages over there, Rock? Like people with deep thoughts on this hot conversation about the Cardinals and the ineptitude of their 2 stars, yet somehow, and look, this is no knock on Bernie. Bernie's a legend, and I love the guy. But like the idea that they've wasted the Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt years as like some fault of their own. Like even if you looked at last year where the pitching was terrible because they trotted out Adam Wainwright every 5th day and the pitching was awful. Like even if you take that, let us not forget Arenado didn't hit anything, at least for 2.5 months last year. So stop with feeling sorry for these guys and saying we're wasting them. They're actually wasting our time. Thank you. All right, what you got over there?
618 says, Paul isn't terrible. He's hitting just .258 with 6 homers in his last 30 games, and he plays decent defense. My question is, who do you put in his place if you get rid of him?
Well, I will tell you this. Oh, look, they're not going to get rid of him at this point. And because he has no time left on his deal, like, it's not like he's a must-move type of guy. And you're right. Defensively, he's still very good. And that's what I explained to these Houston people that were like, bring Paul Goldschmidt home. Great. He's had a good stretch of 30 days. But at the end of the day, like, I watch him play at the plate. And what was that stat? I want to say BK had a stat. It has to be BK. Who else would have it? It's not like Randy's like, watch this stat. Like, that's more of a BK thing. Something about, like, missing, like, pitches right down the middle and swinging through pitches right down the middle or something like that about Paul Goldschmidt. And, look, he's just not he's a bad offensive player. That's what he is. I mean, you can sit there and, like, we're talking about a guy who is supposed to be a cornerstone player and we're stroking him because he's hitting .258. Cool. Like, doesn't do anything. Now, again, don't get rid. I mean, if you can get something for him, get something for him. And who knows what the team's going to look like in 2 months? I mean, probably similar to what they look like now, which is middling and mediocre, because there's no reason to believe they won't. But, I mean, it's just... I mean, the beauty is at least you're not stuck with him. I mean, if we can give Mozeliak credit for one thing, hey, you didn't sign Goldie to a long-term deal. That's a positive, right? Look, I found a positive.
Yeah, we got a text there. Somebody said, hey, Josh, we lucked out not paying Albert for his decline. However, we signed on to watch Goldie and Arenado. What's the difference? It's pretty simple.
Well, yes. And to be fair, though, and this is going to be maybe an unpopular take about Goldschmidt and Arenado. When history plays itself out, I don't know that anybody's going to remember those dudes as played for the Cardinals. Like, Albert Pujols is the greatest St. Louis Cardinal, and you can give me Musial and all that, but I didn't watch Stan Musial play, so I can't do that for you.
Goldie wins an MVP here. Cool. That kind of stands out when you look at his numbers.
But he's played for mostly mediocre baseball teams, and he had that one big year.
Here's the difference.
Albert Pujols is the greatest hitter that I've ever seen.
Here's the difference. The Cardinals in 2011 were an organization that was dealing from a position of strength and was dealing with a situation where they were constantly making proactive moves.
Yes.
And they weren't reacting to things. And I'm not saying that the Goldschmidt-Arenado moves are bad, because in the moment you're getting MVP caliber players for pennies on the dollar. But the fact of the matter is they were making those moves in a time when it was, we have to get superstars because this franchise is about having Hall of Famers and superstars on their roster, and DeWitt hates it when they don't. So you got to get them. And so I'm not saying they were bad moves, but you were no longer dealing with a position of strength that you were in 2011 and before that.
What a difference 13 years makes. I mean, that's a long time, but like in 2011, like you'd go out and you'd go like, you know who we're going to sign today? Octavio Dotel. And then Dotel would just be lights out for you. Like there was about an 11-year stretch, really I'd say till 2013, where the Cardinals almost never missed on dudes, and very rarely did they sign or trade for, I mean, obviously the holidays and guys like that. I'm not saying they didn't make big moves, but in season, the moves they would make, like the aforementioned move in 2000. Now, granted, that's not a mosaic move, but in 2000, when they went out and traded for Will Clark, and Will Clark hit like 350 in the last month of the season or whatever it was, and was amazing, and they went to the NLCS that year. There was a stretch of about 13 years where they'd make moves, and you're like, wow, Anthony Reyes is great, or Jeff Weaver, holy cow, are you kidding me, Jeff Weaver, or Ronnie Belliard, or like every move they made seemed to work out. You go, that guy's probably washed, and then every single move worked. Now, none of them seem to work because it's broken and it's over. And that's okay. Let me give you an example. So when I moved to Philadelphia, I moved there at the end of 2013, which was at the end of Chip Kelly's first season as the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Before that, Andy Reid had been the coach for like 13, 14, 15 years, whatever it was. He was the head coach of the Eagles. Took them to greater heights than ever before seen, right? They went to 5 conference championships. They went to the Super Bowl once. They never won one, but they got there once. They went to 5 straight conference championships or whatever the number was, or 5. They were great. No one would dismiss that they were a solid organization and the best they had ever been. Now, all right, you go to the end of 2013 and people were thrilled to get rid of Andy Reid in Philadelphia. And I was blown away by that. I was like, what the hell? Why do you guys want to get rid of this guy? And the overwhelming consensus of people said it had just kind of run its course. And those kind of things are possible. Like if you go back and you look at Mozeliak for the last decade plus, you'd probably go like, you know what? Did a lot of good things. Like if you look, again, in a vacuum, if you look at these individual trades and the moves they made to get the stars they got, to get Goldschmidt and get Arenado, those are wins. And I know that people judge, they love to go back and look at like the Ozuna trade. Rewind to that Ozuna trade and tell me it was a bad trade when it happened. It wasn't. The Marlins had 3 baller-ass outfielders. You got Ozuna, who was a dude that inexplicably won a Gold Glove at one point.
That's the one that Mo says he wished he could have back, which is funny to me.
But no, there's a bunch you should wish you had back.
That's why it's hilarious.
You've made so many dumb moves lately, and you want Ozuna back? Ozuna at the time made so much sense. There was nothing wrong with that move. But of course, when dudes turn out to be fine and then other dudes end up being duds, it's easy to retroactively go back and say that was a terrible move. So there are moves that he has made that have been good moves. The Goldie move was great. The Arenado move was great. But it's over. Just like I brought up Andy Reid when he was in Philadelphia. You look at Andy Reid now winning multiple Super Bowls in Kansas City, going to the playoffs every year. You go, how the hell did Philadelphia want to get rid of Andy Reid? Well, because after 13 or 14 years of being kind of status quo, it's time for something to change. It's time for something new. Has Mozeliak been overall terrible in his entire run here? No. But we're sick of it. It's over. It's done. And again, going back to Bernie's piece about the 10 reasons why fans aren't going to the ballpark, it's because I don't believe in the organization and the people who run it. And not to mention, when you've got an openly adversarial ownership group that in interviews laughs at you when you say you're not going to go to the ball game. We're kind of in St. Louis baseball hell right now. And that has not happened in my lifetime. I'm 37 years old. The first year I remember crying over a Cardinals game was 1996, up 3-1 against Atlanta and losing 32-1 over the next 3 games. I had a bottle of root beer and I was ready to shake it up to celebrate, right? My mom bought me a bottle of root beer down in Poplar Bluff. We're going to shake this up and we're going to spray each other and we're going to the World Series. Then we're outscored 32-1. That's the first time I remember sobbing over the Cardinals. And that was in 1996. And since that moment, there have been thousands of great moments and some crappy ones, but mostly great moments. But right now, we're in the middle of nothing but crap moments. And I'm not going to get interested again. I'm not going to have that passion again until you show me that you're making a commitment to overhauling the organization. I want Mo gone. I want his stooge Marmol gone. And I want to feel something for the Cardinals again because I'm sick of sitting my ass on the couch and wondering if I should even turn on the game. I hate the fact that I moved here because I wanted to go watch the Cardinals, and now I can't get off my lazy ass to go downtown to go see them because they bore me so much. And I know that others feel the same way I feel. I know you do because I see it on social media. I see it everywhere. It sucks. And until they change this whole thing up and give us reason to root, go back to 96. All those 87, 88, 89, 90, basically 87 to 95, we stunk. But then Tony La Russa comes in, new ownership comes in, and then we're jazzed up and we're ready to go. And since then, it's been mostly amazing highs and a couple of lows. But right now, we're in the lows, and we're not getting out of the lows. And these fans in this city will not really fall in love with this team again as long as Mo and Ali are here. Is that fair? Maybe not. But it's reality. The passion is dead. The ballpark was half empty on a Saturday last week, and I don't blame the people. That's where we are right now. So DeWitt and everybody else, figure it out. Because I know you think we're going to stick around forever and be your little stooges and buy all your merch and standing ovations, but we're not going to do it forever. And the ballpark being half empty shows that. So pull your heads out of your asses and fix this damn thing, because I'm tired of watching bad baseball, and I'm tired of not caring about my favorite freaking baseball team. How about that, Bill DeWitt and the rest of you clowns? Figure it the F out. All right, more after this. Well, since Father's Day is Sunday, and I'm on this passionate rant about the Cardinals, which is completely authentic. I'm not some disingenuous clown over this. I love the Cardinals, and I have my whole life. My dad and I never really went to ball games together because my dad was usually out with his girlfriends. But we never really went to ball games together. But when I would visit Poplar Bluff, my grandpa and I, I'd spend summers with him, and in his house, he would have one of those old school stereos, and he would have it synced up to the Cardinals broadcast on the radio. We would turn down the TV. We would listen to the Cardinals. So you'd hear Mike or Jack or whomever was on the radio at that time. And any time I go to the ballpark, particularly though on like opening day and the Clydesdales are out and I've had a couple of Busch lattes and here comes the King plays, I tend to emote a little bit because I have so much love for the ballpark and the Cardinals and what it meant to me and my grandpa and sitting around watching these games, and he'd explain the game to me. He was like a historian. He knew all the details about the Cardinals and the Big Red and Mizzou, and he would just tell me all these things, and we would sit there and listen. If we got in the car, and I think most people grew up this way, if it was the summer and you got in the car to run an errand, the second you turned the ignition, you'd hear, and here's the 0-2 pitch. Like, that's how it was. Swinging a long one. That's what it was. So as much as I make jokes about things and everything else, whether it was your dad, your grandpa, whoever, maybe it was your mom, whoever gave you the love of sport and showed you that baseball is awesome and showed you that sports are awesome and drove you to the ballpark. You know, me and my grandpa sat in Homer's Landing for game 2 of that 2000 division series against the Braves. Tom Glavine pitched. Will Clark hit a home run. And also Mark McGwire hit a pinch hit home run in that game as well. And we just shellacked the Braves in that game, and we ended up winning that series pretty easily. But think about those people. And they may not be with you anymore. My grandpa's not around anymore. But we used to, like, that's what I loved about that. Because he was the one that was truly passionate about the Cardinals. My dad, you know, he likes it, but he wasn't as passionate as my grandpa was. So we had a lot of awesome moments doing that, and he's the reason why I love the Cardinals. The reason why I'm passionate and the reason I yell about this stuff and the reason why I want it to be fun again and the reason why I miss the ballpark being full is because my grandpa instilled that in me, and I loved it, and I miss him all the time. But it was an amazing time that we had, and he's the reason why I love the St. Louis Cardinals. He would call me. Remember in 2010 when the benches clearing fight happened with the Reds? I think it was 2010. It's like in August. Calls me. He's leaving me messages about that, all that. Like he would, and I know I'm going long here, but sorry. Listen. Oh, as if other people don't go long too. I'm
We got the ticket giveaway.
Okay, we got Journey, and I'm emoting here. I'm emoting, Rock.
I know.
Now I feel like I'm back on Casey again, right? When I start emoting, now I got to give away Def Leppard tickets. News flash about Def Leppard. They tour every 11 minutes. If you don't win these tickets, you'll win them next year. They never stop touring. Fine, I'm not going to emote. I was going to emote. I was going to humanize myself a little bit, talk about my dead grandpa. I already talked about how I adopt animals. I was really warming up to the people, but I got to go. BK's got some stats probably to give you, and I'm in his time now, so I'm sorry. If you want to see Journey and Def Leppard, if you haven't already, where have you been? They've been around for 70 years. But if you haven't seen Journey and Def Leppard and you'd like to win those tickets, how the hell do you guys give away stuff over here, Rock?
We usually do a trivia question, but we're kind of out of time right now, so I picked a winner already, and they'll get those tickets.
Is Rockio a heartless douche?
Yes.
Answer that question. Well, now you gave away the answer. Now I have to ask another one. Is Rockio an asshat? If you can answer that on the text, and he doesn't love, then yes, you can win Journey and Def Leppard tickets, and we'll see you later.